Welcome to Minewhat, the series that teaches teachers how to use Minecraft effectively in their classroom. Now we're at episode 5, and this episode is all about differentiation. How do you provide different things to different students based on different needs? And just like trees need different elements to be able to grow, your students are going to need different elements in Minecraft education to be successful. So episode 5 is going to teach you 4 very simple ways to differentiate in Minecraft, so that way your students can have the most successful experience possible. So without further ado, Minewhat, episode 5.
So in episode 5, we're going to talk all about differentiation. It's one of those fun educational buzzwords. And the great thing about Minecraft Education Edition is that you can do so much with differentiation, and it's actually so simple to do. And so I'm going to show you 4 different ways that you can differentiate right away. You don't have to know Minecraft all that well to be able to do any one of these 4 different things. So the first item we're going to look at is the game mode. And this is really important because your game mode will determine what kinds of differentiation you're going to need to do. So if I hit escape and I go to settings and I go into personal game mode, I'm going to see there's 3 different settings. Alright, so I'm going to go to survival. And if I go to survival, you'll see at the bottom of the screen there's hearts. Looks like there's meat there. And what I want to show you here is I've got a nice little pool here. And in survival, I take damage. So if I jump in here, you see little bubbles there at the bottom. You see little bubbles popping. That's my air. All right, I don't have a lot of it. I've got a little bit of it. Okay, and so what you'll see is once all the bubbles have popped, then my hearts will start to disappear 1/2 at a time here. So here we go, and boop, there we go. Now if I raise out of the water, there we go, my hearts are back. Alright, the other thing you need to be aware of in survival is hunger. Alright, and you'll see at the bottom there the little meat things, little meat icons, and that just indicates that I have hunger needs. Now, I'm not going to leave it on survival long enough for you to see the hunger go down, but it does eventually go down, and so I do have to eventually eat. All right, so I'm gonna switch back to creative mode here, so I can get out of my little pool. And in survival mode, now you'll notice that you don't have the ability to be able to access anything in the inventory. So if I get inventory now, I'm in creative mode. I have anything that I could possibly imagine. Everything is at my fingertips. Alright, so you see everything. Now, if I switch back to survival, I don't have the same options that I did before. I only have what was my quick tab here and a few items in my inventory. Alright. So that's the biggest difference. So when it comes to survival, 2 things you need to realize. You need to realize that you have to survive. So you take damage from fire and wild animals and monsters at night, and you also have to survive hunger-wise as well. Now, if my hunger would have dropped down all the way, and all those little meat icons went away, my hearts would start to deplete as well. All right, and that's hunger. Now, if I'm a student and I'm in survival mode and I've not played Minecraft before, I have no idea what I'm doing, or I don't even recognize that I have these hunger icons or that I need to find food, my character's gonna die pretty fast. So if I'm a teacher and I realize that I have a few students who don't know that they need to go over and attack this pig in order to be able to get the meat, then I'm going to have to do something to kind of help them out a little bit, alright? Because I want them to be able to survive long enough to be able to accomplish any task that I want them to be able to do. Now, if the task at hand is to simply have them survive, okay, then maybe you won't need to differentiate. However, I'm guessing you're probably going to have at least a few students that have never played Minecraft before, and so you're going to have to help them out just a little bit, alright? When you're in survival mode, there's several ways that you could differentiate, which we're going to get into here in just a minute. But I just want you to be aware of all of the things that can happen in survival mode. Alright? Because if you have a student their character is constantly dying in Minecraft because they're falling or they're drowning or they're not eating, you might actually want to put that individual student into a different game mode. And you can do that by simply going to your commands, alright, and you type in game mode, and let's say they just cannot handle survival, so you can actually put them in creative. You can either type in C or the word creative, and then you type in their name. Once you've got their name typed in, you hit enter, and it will actually change that individual student's game mode. Now you also need to be aware of the fact that that student can't be hurt at all either. Alright, now it doesn't mean that you have to leave that game mode on the entire time, but at least long enough for them to be able to get an understanding of how the game works. Alright, so that's survival mode. This is great for pre-designed simulations, if you have houses that you've created for students, and a lot of this depends on the age of the students that you're working with. Alright, so I'm going to go back to my settings, and I'm going to change my game mode to creative. And when I go to creative, once again, everything is at my disposal for inventory. I can use anything I want, unlimited quantities. The other thing I need to be made aware of here is that I can't take damage, so I can jump in water. If I go back to my pool here, and I jump back in the water, and I hang out under here, you'll notice there's no bubbles. Alright, I could stay under here forever if I wanted to. Okay? I can also fly. Kind of a neat little feature in creative. This is something I cannot do in survival. Now you can glide with wings, but I can't actually fly. Alright. So creative is it's a really great game mode to give students the unlimited options. Alright. So that's creative. And the last one I want to show you is adventure. And adventure mode's kind of fun because you can't actually place blocks. So I'm trying to place a block, and I cannot delete blocks either. So I'm going to try to delete this block here, take it out. Can't do it. Okay? So adventure mode means that I can still take falling damage, I can still take damage from monsters and those kinds of things. I can still, if I want to, I can go over and get meat from an animal if I want to, so I can still do that. However, I can't actually affect the actual physical world around me. So this is a really neat feature if you have something that you pre-made that you don't want students to disrupt or break. Alright, so this is adventure world. Or adventure mode, excuse me. It's just like survival, except once again, you can't place blocks, I can't break blocks. So it basically makes the world immutable, which is kind of a nice feature here. Alright, so those are game modes. The reason I mention game modes when it comes to differentiation is because you may have some students that you might want to put in various game modes. If you have a student that's constantly trying to destroy everything that everyone's creating, then you can put them in adventure mode. If you have a student that's constantly dying in the game and you want to give them the opportunity to be able to survive for a little while, you can put them in creative mode. Not every student has to be in the exact same game mode. That's why I bring it up when it comes to differentiation. Alright, now, the next thing I want to talk about is giving students items. Alright, now you can put a student in creative mode and have access to all of the items in the inventory. Everything that's available in Minecraft Education Edition, except for a few of the items only available to teachers. But let's say you don't want to do that. Let's say instead you want to try to give them items to help them along. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into your inventory. Well, you can see now I'm in adventure mode, so I need to go back to creative mode. I'm going to go to my inventory. I'm going to find the chest. And I know what I want to put in the chest, so I'm going to put a sword to help him out. And, I'll throw some armored chest plate in there, and let's throw some food in there, maybe just a little bit. I'll throw a little bit of bread in there, maybe a little bit of cooked rabbit in there. Alright, so I have students spawn in my world, my episode 5 world, and when they spawn in the world they have nothing. I don't want to put them in creative mode, but I still want to give them some options. I want to give them some items when they first pop into this world. Now there's two ways I can do this. I can create what's called a fixed inventory item or items, and I'll explain how to do that in later episodes. I want to keep this simple. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to place a chest, and in this chest I'm going to put a sword, a chest plate, and a little bit of food. Actually, that's quite a bit of food there. Now, one thing I need to realize is that if I'm putting this one chest down for all the students, probably one student is going to go in, they're going to open it up, they're going to take everything out of it. Alright, because it's available there. Alright, so the other thing I can do is I can actually hide chests around the world. So let's say I have students, I tell them, explore, see what you can find, and I throw a chest down here, I throw an axe in there, and I might throw a chest, ooh, perfect spot over here, little hole, perfect, I'll throw a chest in there, I'll throw another sword in there, alright, and so I had a few chests, around their spawn point, and let them know, there's some resources around the spawn point when you first get there, so look around, you can find some things. Alright, that's one way that I can give students a little bit of an advantage when they start in the world. And once again, a lot of this depends on the age level of the students that you're working with and the ultimate goal of why you're having them play Minecraft. So if it's a survival kind of situation, and you know that you put the difficulty on hard, and it's going to be a rough go at it, you can start with something like this, a chest. If you're doing something more creative, like pixel art or those kinds of things, you're not going to need a chest. If you put the students in creative mode, they're not going to need a chest. So they're only really going to need a chest for, adventure mode or survival mode. But let's say you don't want to put chests down. That's not really an option, that you want to give them. You want to give specific students specific items. Now you can do this in the command box as well. And once again, in a later episode, I'll show you how to do that. However, in this episode, I don't want to get that complicated. I want to keep it really, really simple. So, I'm going to delete this chest, alright? And let's say I have a student. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to create just a fake person, alright? And I'm going to call this fake person Bob. Alright, so this is my student. This is Bob the student. And so let's just pretend this is a student, alright? And I keep watching this student, I'm flying around the world, my episode 5 world, and the student just cannot make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help this individual student out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, and I see that this student keeps getting killed by monsters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Q button, boom, I just threw a sword out. Now if this were an actual student, that sword would be sucked up into their inventory, and they would then have that available to them. Or I can do the same thing with this chest plate. So I can give individual items to individual students this way. Now you notice it disappears then from my quick tab, so I need to replenish that once again if I have other students that I want to give stuff to. So let's say there's more than one student I want to give a sword to. Okay, so put multiple swords down here. You get a sword, you get a sword, you get some food. You get the idea here. Alright? So that's one way. One way I can give items. Now those items won't be there forever, and they'll disappear after a little while, but the students simply walk over it, and they collect them. Alright. Now that gives Bob a fighting chance as an individual student. Okay? And once again, this is all about differentiation, so you're going to have to be the one who determines what different students need at different times. Alright? And when, some students might ask, can I have this, can I have that, can I have a sword, can I have this? And all depends on the goal. What is it that you want them to do in this world? Once again, if they're on creative, you don't have to do any of this. All of the materials are right there for them. However, if they're in survival or adventure mode, you might need to help a student out from time to time. Alright, especially those students who have not played before. And once they catch on, you have to do this less and less. But don't be afraid to do this. It's okay to do that. Alright? So we've gone over game modes. We've gone over placing chests in the world to help students out. We just went over dropping items for students. And the last thing I want to go over is creating barriers. And this may seem like a weird topic when it comes to differentiation. However, I might have a group of students in one class that spend a ton of time exploring. I don't really want them to explore. I want them to create and I have another class of students that they don't explore at all, they just get down to business, then those students are going to have different needs. Those groups of students are going to have different needs. So, how do I spawn students into a dynamic world like Minecraft, all right, where it is visually stunning. You know, some really cool things going on here, some really neat animals, and you know, at one point you do want students to be able to explore. You do want them to be able to see the world that you've thrown them into. But maybe there's a point at which you want them to get down to business. You want them to do a specific task, create something. Then you need to maybe create some parameters here, okay? And there's several ways that you can do this. So I'm going to fly over here, and I've already created some of these parameters, all right? Now, in previous episodes, I've explained a little bit about what this border is. And what this does is it keeps students located in a certain area or out of a certain area. Students cannot actually go over this or under this, all right? And so the way you access this is just going into your regular building blocks, and at the very bottom here you'll see it says border, all right? And you just place it like you would place any other block. Just like that, all right? And so I've made a little box here, all right? Now this is obviously an incredibly small area, and this is not the size of an area you want your students to be kept within. However, it does give you an idea of something that you can do. So if you have students that you want to stay within a certain area, this is probably the most simple way to do it. All right. Now, if you don't like the red building block, if you don't like the way that looks, fine. There's another way you can do it. You can see little red X's coming up here indicating that there is a border there. Well, I've hidden it underneath some dirt and some ground. All right. So you can do that too. You can actually dig down, hide the border down there, and then cover it if you want to with dirt. So students won't actually see the border, they'll just see the little red X's that come up above that to indicate that there is a border there. If you'd like to keep the world as it is here, or as natural as possible. The other options you have here, we have water. Water is a great natural barrier. However, I would warn you about creating your own water barriers. It's not nearly as effective as finding a water barrier already existing in the seed of the world. So water's a great barrier. Yes, students can swim, but it is slow, and it can keep students within a certain area. The other option you have is lava, and this is kind of a fun barrier. I call it a natural barrier, although I live in Ohio, so this is not terribly natural barrier for me. However, in Minecraft, it is a natural barrier, so if I create some lava falls, I can keep students within that area, because if they were to walk over it, their character would light on fire and most likely die, and they have to respawn. All right. So lava can also create a nice natural barrier if you want to keep students within a certain area. Now, just a personal suggestion, I would keep this to a minimum. Keep barriers to a minimum, because ultimately, if all you ever do is create these barriers in which students are only allowed to play within this certain space, it's really going to limit what they can do with Minecraft. And so I would keep these options open. However, I would make sure that you do this as infrequently as possible. All right. And once again, I mention this because when it comes to differentiating, maybe you have a class that doesn't need a barrier. Maybe they don't get as distracted by some of these other things as easily as another class. All right. So you're the expert here for your classroom. And so when it comes to differentiating with Minecraft, what we need to keep in mind is that you do have a lot of options available to you for differentiation, and a lot of options that you can utilize right away, and you don't have to know a ton about Minecraft to utilize every single one of these options I went over. Between game modes, preloading the world with different chests, dropping items for certain students, or just using barriers to be able to keep students within a certain area, all very viable options for differentiation. Now, they're not the only options, and in future episodes we'll go over a lot more options. and a lot more complicated options using commands and those kinds of things. But for now, this is a great way for you to get started and a great way for you to be able to differentiate very quickly with a limited knowledge of Minecraft. So thanks a lot for watching. Episode 5, Minewhat.